Hey everybody, hopefully you're having a good weekend. Now we went ahead and pre-recorded a lesson this week in the event that inclement weather would make it impossible for us to gather together this Sunday, which is why you are watching this. That's what we're doing right now. It's kind of a weird setting because no one else is here, and so I'm going to rely on your humor, your laughter, all that stuff. I've just got to know that you're doing that at home, however you're watching this. So with that, I'm going to pause it for a second, and then we'll come back for the message. So about a year or so ago, we were at our favorite Mexican restaurant in town, Taqueria La Palenque. Top tier tacos, excellent prices. Cannot recommend them enough. But it was a Sunday after church, and that's normally where we like to eat. And so we're at this restaurant, and we're talking, and then Judah, my son, eventually says, "When do I get to do one of those sermon things that you do every Sunday?" And the tone was weird, which made me inquire, where's this coming from? And more specifically, why do you want to do one of those sermon things? And Judah's response haunts me to this day, because Judah said, "It just doesn't seem like it takes a lot of work." Did not like that. After explaining to him the processes of developing a sermon, looking at different translations, doing the exegesis of a text, fell asleep, clearly. He was bored. But we ended up landing on this compromise that one Sunday in the very near future, Judah would actually get to read scripture here in the assembly. And I love that Sunday because somebody in the back took a picture and they sent it to me of I'm standing here and Judah is standing next to me, and he's holding the microphone so confidently. Like as he walked up those steps, he knew he was about to read scripture in front of all of you all. And he walks up here, he does it, and then when he starts to say the first word of whatever passage he read, if you were watching his face, you would have seen this realization that something happened within him. When he heard noises come from his mouth, enter into the microphone, fill the speakers and the room here in our auditorium, that something registered within Judah that he had a voice. I think that's a extremely powerful realization. When you can hear your voice and confidently either say something powerful, read a scripture, affirm somebody, like knowing that we have a voice is such a powerful thing. And more than that, when we realize that we have a voice, recognizing that we have something to say. Because words, and specifically how we use them, are very important. In his letter, James talks about this in his letter when he writes this: "How great a forest is set ablaze by a small fire, and the tongue is a fire." Even James, way back a long time ago, was registering that our voices are powerful. They can be uplifting, they can be encouraging, they can be used to build people up, but at the same time, sometimes our words can break people down too. So how we use our voices matters. There's great power and responsibility in how we use our voices. But this series that we started in January is called Why Chenal, which is trying to answer that question that people get from time to time of, why do you go to Chenal? If you're looking for a church, for a community, a group of believers to spend time with, to invest your life into, why Chenal? Well, one of those reasons is that you have a voice. We believe that every member in our congregation has a voice, that God has given them something to say, whether that be on stage, reading scripture, sharing in communion, doing announcements, praying. Like, we believe that you have a voice. But we also believe that you can use your voice in other ways too, whether that be encouraging your neighbor, your friend, your coworker, uplifting your fellow student who just needs to know that, hey, they're not alone. We believe that God has given each of us the gift of voice. And for us, that makes us different, especially in our community, in our fellowship of our denomination. That makes Chenal unique. So this past week, one of the things that I did was I sat down with somebody who recently read scripture in our church setting for the first time. This was something that was new for her, something that, as she talks about in this short video, made her nervous. She was a little bit scared to get up here and read scripture. But when she recognized that she had a voice, that turned the corner for her and made her realize, hey, this is something that I can do. I have a voice, and I want to share it. So if you would, watch this quick video with me, introducing you to Kelly Johnson, as well as her story of why she has a voice.
Hi, my name is Kelly Johnson. My husband Steve and I have been at Chenal Valley approximately 2 years. We came because of our kids, and it's wonderful here.
So a few years ago, you were asked to read scripture during worship, and you and I have talked a little bit about like the impact and what that meant to you. Could you share a little bit of that?
Well, of course, I grew up where women were definitely silent in the church, but I realized that God uses everyone. He's used prostitutes, He's used men, He's used women, He's used everyone to make everything work. And when I got up there, I was scared to death. And then I felt like that I was being a part of something. I actually got to contribute to the worship service. And that was something that it just made my heart full. I don't know how else to explain it.
When you said that you were nervous, what how did you overcome those nerves?
Well, I don't know. Having been in, a school principal forever, I didn't think I would be nervous, but that's much different than being in front of your Christian brothers and sisters. And I felt like, at first, I felt like everybody's gonna, oh, how is she gonna say this? How is she gonna say that? And then I just thought, God's giving me the opportunity to do this. If I mess a word up, okay, God is driving this. And that's what was so special about it to me.
Did you have any family members encourage you when you did that, or
Oh, yeah. Of course, Stephanie, my daughter, is she wants Ruby Lee to have every opportunity that she can, and so do I. So I think the first time I did it, it was to show Ruby Lee that she can do things if she wants to, and that everybody has an opportunity to be a part, whether you're male, female, child, elderly. And that's what makes Chanel so special. It's a family that everybody contributes to.
thank you, Kelly, for that. I really do appreciate you, one, taking some time to let me record our dialogue, our conversation, but also you sharing your experience here. That realization that you have a voice. It doesn't matter who you are, that you can use your voice and that God has put something on your heart to say. Now, for you sitting out there watching this, you may say, I'm never going to get on stage. I'm never going to get up there and pray, read scripture, whatever. I'm not doing it. It's not me. But you can still use your voice to encourage your neighbor, your coworker, your friend. Those are also ways that you can use your voices as gifts. Because our voices are gifts. Whether we recognize that or not, they are a gift from God. And Jesus talks about using our gifts all throughout his ministry. And specifically in one parable, Jesus talks about using gifts in a way that honors God. And the story is from a parable that Jesus tells in Matthew chapter 25. It's called the parable of the talents. And it goes like this. There's a master who is planning on going away for a period of time. But before the master leaves, he calls together some of his servants. And he gives each of them a unit of money. So the first guy he calls up and he says, I'm going to give you 5 bags of gold. Pretty cool. Good for that guy. Second guy gets called up. He's like, I'm going to give you 2 bags of gold. He's like, okay, it's not 5, but that's fair. I'll take it. The third guy gets called up and he goes, I'm going to give you 1 bag of gold. Now, the story gets really interesting from here because what happens is the first guy goes and he doubles that money. So he has 5 bags initially. Now he has 10. He's doubled it. Second dude does the exact same thing. He takes that money, he doubles it. He's got 4 bags of gold now. These 2 dudes have doubled what they have been given. But the story really focuses on the third servant. Because the third servant does something completely opposite than the other 2. What he does is he goes and he digs a hole. This is what Scripture says. He digs a hole, puts that bag into the hole, covers that hole up, and doesn't do anything with the bag of gold. Now, eventually, the master comes back. He brings his servants together and he's like, hooray, I have returned. Now, first servant comes up. And he's like, Master, I have doubled what you have given me. High fives all around for this dude. The master's excited. Everyone is like, this is wonderful. Second guy comes up. Master, you're not going to believe this. Did the same thing as that fellow. Everybody is thrilled. Thrilled with these first 2 servants. Which brings us to the third servant. I would love to know the mental state that this person was in when they confidently walked up to the master with that 1 bag, probably with dirt on it. Remember, he buried it. But he walks up and he says that he was afraid and he hid the money in the ground. Now, if you want to look at this, the master's words to this third servant are so harsh. I mean, they're brutal. He tears into this guy because he was given a gift and he didn't use it. Instead of using it, he was afraid. He was afraid to use the gift that he was given. Friends, our voices are gifts from God. If God has given you the ability, God will certainly give you the opportunity as well. For me, this is where this moves away from solely talking about speaking in a worship setting, because I firmly believe that God will place moments and opportunities in our lives to share, to bless, to encourage, to support. You fill in the blank for you that God will do those things. There may be moments in your life, where you need to speak out against injustice, to speak out against something that you know is wrong. And the Bible is filled with examples like this. Look at the story of Esther. Esther is a story about a woman who has been silenced, who feels like she can't speak up. But in a moment, she recognizes that this is why God has placed her here, not to remain silent, but to speak out against what she has seen. A young woman who finds herself in an incredible situation where God needs her to use her voice. Story of Moses. Moses is a story about an individual finding their voice. Someone who's not confident in the beginning, but recognizes over time that God needs Moses to use his voice to speak out. Then there's Amos, a brilliant Old Testament story about a sheep breeder who finds himself in a situation where he's like, I have no business using my voice here. There are other people more talented, more equipped to do this. And God is saying, no, I need to hear your voice. Friends, God may be putting you in a moment right now where your voice is the one that's needed. You may think that you're not equipped, prepared. You fill in whatever excuse you need to, but God has put on your heart the need to say something because that individual, that circumstance needs to hear it from you. But using our opportunities when these moments arise, those are the moments that shape us. They define us and determine who we will be. When we speak up, when those moments happen, when we use our God-given voices as gifts, they determine who we'll be. I want to end with one last story that I read a while ago that has stuck with me. And every time I think about the importance of using our voices, I think about this particular individual. So in 2012, this girl and two of her friends are riding home on a public bus after taking exams at school. At one point in the journey, members of the Taliban walk onto this bus and shoot this girl and her two friends. And if you're familiar with the story, you probably know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about Malala Yousafzai, a young girl who was 12 at the time who was shot by the Taliban because she believed in the right for her to have an education. Now, 4 years later, at the age of 16, after a lot of recovery, after a lot of healing, Malala stood in front of the United Nations and delivered a brilliant speech, the importance of education. But she said these words that have stuck with me. She says, "I raise up my voice, not so that I can shout, but so that those without a voice can be heard." Friends, we have been given the gift of voice. Use it. But feel free to use it in your way that best glorifies God. For some of you, it may be in a congregational setting. It may be on the stage, reading scripture, praying, whatever that may be. That may be what fits for you. But for some of you, you may say, "I'm never going to get on stage and do that." That's fine. Because God has still placed moments and opportunities throughout your life for you to use your voice, to encourage, to uplift, to build up your friends, your neighbors, your colleagues. Because if God has given us the ability, God will deliver the opportunities. And so when those come before you, when you have that feeling on your heart of like, "Hey, I need to say something. Hey, I know my friend is going through it. I need to be an encourager right now for them." Go for it. And the next time that somebody says, "Hey, why do you go to Chenal? What makes Chenal different?" You can say, "Hey, because at Chenal you have a voice." We believe that everybody has a voice, that God has planted on everyone's heart something to say. But it's up to you to decide how you're going to do that. Hopefully you have a great rest of your week. Hopefully by this time next week, the roads will be clear and we'll be back together here at Chenal. But have a great rest of your week. We'll see you then. Goodbye.